This is our last session before we submit our projects next week. What we want to do is I want to cover today a little bit of maybe some of the design to delight methodology and look at a few more samples of applications and what some top applications are. Hope if everyone can follow along with that. We're recording this for those online that want to stream it after the fact. So we'll put this on the team site and everyone can access the recording after the fact. I do also want to let you know that we have a couple more. We have a second and third prize added to this, so there's a little more money in the pot for participants who are submitting applications. So that's good. A little more chance of winning a prize. And of course, like any other time before, if you have any questions, Todd Graham or Todd_Graham@cbu.ca is the email address to get me at. So without further ado, I'm going to just start sharing my screen here. And we're going to look at Design for Delight. Now, you probably have heard of design thinking. You may not have heard of Design for Delight. Design for Delight is a condensed form of design thinking. And I like doing it just because it's a little easier to sort of do within a short form. So it's the kind of thing that I can cover in a class more easily compared to design thinking. So Design for Delight actually comes from Design for Delight actually comes from Intuit. Intuit, we were just talking about QuickBooks. Intuit, yeah, Intuit is a software company. And their primary product is something called QuickBooks, although they also have TurboTax and some other things, I'm sure. But QuickBooks accounting software and TurboTax are their two main products. And you might ask, well, what does an accounting company have to do or want to do with design, or design for, in their case, delight or design thinking? What they understand is that the core of their business rests in customer satisfaction. If you look at the history of accounting software, it's never had a particularly good reputation for being easy to use. It's gone from something that only specialized people with specialized training can use in the past, through a middle process where when desktop computers became popular and when most businesses or many businesses started using accounting software within like on a day-to-day basis in their operations, it's progressed through that. And even at that phase, it still was fairly hard to use. QuickBooks in particular set as its mission to be much more understandable and much more accessible and addressable and easy to use by people that don't have formal accounting training. And they were first to move into the cloud space. So, traditionally a lot of software, all software was available by installing it on a desktop computer or a laptop. Their latest product now, and it's been 7, 8, 9 years since they've introduced their cloud version of QuickBooks, that they've moved it entirely on the cloud. So you can log on to your device anywhere. Okay, multiple people can log on to multiple devices anywhere and access all the same information in real time. And they've done a particularly good job of making the software, within the understanding that it still is accounting software, but making it easy to use. So they've done that through systematically and continually addressing customers' pain points within that accounting space. So they've developed this product that they call, this process that they call Design for Delight. And it's drawn from design thinking, but the three foundations of it are deep customer empathy, rapid experiments with customers, and going broad to go narrow. So I'm going to take a little time to introduce all of those. Yeah.
Maybe out of discussing right now.
Okay, but if it is, maybe we can hold on to it and ask it after if it's outside of. Okay, because I'd like to continue through this. So design for delight. So number one, you'll hear them use the phrase, customer follow me homes. Okay. And that literally is what it sounds like. Okay. You literally go home or to an office with a customer, and you feel and watch and experience firsthand what their issues and problems are. You observe real behavior. And they avoid, or you're told specifically to avoid, secondhand information and conjecture. So here's where like this secondhand information issue is something that I find a lot of entrepreneurs and app developers follow down this road of following their gut instinct, which sometimes is right. But many times really, well, it doesn't put the customer, it doesn't put the user at the center of the solution, okay? So a person can have intuitive insight into what someone else's problems are, but it's something else to actually follow them home, go to their house, literally. And I've seen this process actually work, not just in real life, but even through COVID, and doing a follow me home online. So having an online interview with a potential customer, okay, with the potential user. And it works remarkably well. You get someone in their environment, they're explaining their situation, you're understanding more deeply what their actual problems are, and you're not relying on conjecture or what other people think, okay? The example that they use when they talk about training this follow me home process is, if I went and I did a survey, okay, and I asked people about their eating habits, okay, well, within the process of doing a survey out of context, people are likely, okay, to sort of misrepresent their eating habits. Oh, I eat healthy, I love salads, I don't eat fat. Like, if you ask someone what they eat, they will tell you that they are the epitome of health. What's that?
General tendency.
Yeah, like
To represent themselves.
people want to represent themselves. Like as soon as someone is asking a question about healthy eating, you trigger yourself and you put yourself in the mode of in somebody's trying to please them or conform to what you think they want to hear. So someone completes that survey and then you follow them home. And they go home and they whip out a frozen pizza, have a big old glass of Coca-Cola, right? So there's a difference between surveying people and actually watching them, or actually, getting in their space and seeing what their real issues are. And of course, these things aren't intended to be long. Like there is a certain amount of time and a certain amount of interjection that is acceptable, sort of thing. So these follow me homes, they really are brilliant. And I love the phraseology, follow me home, like literally go home with them. It might sound like a lot of work. It is a lot of work, but it's much less work than going off in the wrong direction under wrong assumptions, trying to solve problems that really are not problems. So, so you find real customers who you literally can follow home, and you experience their problem within the context of their home, their surroundings, their workplace, okay? And then you take that information back to your team, to the group of people you're hopefully working with, and you debrief the team and share your observations and discuss what you've learned, the things that surprised you, the things that didn't surprise you, okay? And of course, you probably would do that with more than one individual. You would definitely do that with more than one individual. Which brings us sort of this customer problem statement. Now, there's a copy of this in the workbook, and I'm going to describe it a little more fully here. So it starts off like it has these points. I'm trying to, but, because, which makes me feel. So I am needs to be a narrow description of a person, okay, with attributes and characteristics. Okay, to say something like, I am a student. Well, that's general. Okay, I am a third-year student enrolled in something, right? Like really understand and define that role. And you would do this multiple times because you probably will have multiple potential customers or users. And you're trying to. So the desired outcome. Okay. Maybe you want to learn guitar. Okay. Just as an example, it's easy to understand maybe learning music. You want to learn guitar. But I don't have enough time because my school schedule is hectic or busy, which makes me feel yeah, but that's you see, you're jumping to solution. Okay, don't jump to solution, follow the process. Because, which makes me feel, and then here's the actual key to this, which makes me feel emotion. Now, the first thing you're going to put in here is the word stressed. That's the only word you're not allowed to put in there. When you say you're like, it's just an easy fallback to say, well, I'm stressed because of. Well, what actually is your emotion? Okay, underlying this, you want to learn guitar. You've got a reason. There are practical obstacles in the way. And what does it make me feel? Well, does it make me feel like a failure? Does it make me feel like I have like unfulfilled potential? Okay. The emotional underpinning to this problem statement is one of the key attributes. So you do this, you run it several times with several different, prospective users or customers. Maybe someone is, maybe someone works as a teller in a bank. Okay, to give you a little specific. Maybe somebody works as a construction worker with the municipality and you're with the Parks Division. Like, define who you are and then define the ideal state, the desired outcome. And then getting into the barriers, and there might be multiple barriers, and there might be multiple root causes. But this problem gets you through. I think the two ends are probably the most important. You've got definitively who could be your customer, and definitively how are they feeling about their inability to solve their problem. Yeah.
Comments customer will give when we do follow home or any kind of.
Yeah, you would. There's a couple ways to go about this. When we do this as an exercise in a class setting, we actually do it with sticky notes. In fact, on the wall here, maybe you see some sticky notes. Yeah, and there's like on the wall over here, there's a couple of the starters for that. So you do them as a group project. So you take a group of people together if you're trying to solve a group problem, and everyone adds their thoughts to it. And you can also take these into that follow me home process, and you can ask them. Now, I don't think within the follow me home process you would ask them as point blank as this, right? How does that make you feel? Like, it's difficult sometimes. So you ask someone how something makes them feel, for them to give you what would be that honest answer. But with skill and practice interviewing, you might be able to implement that within the follow me home. Yeah. You can hypothesize about the problem. Okay. There's probably multiple problems. And this is one tool. There are other things, other ways that you can determine issues. This is just the one I'm presenting in the context of this competition, because it's fairly easy to put in a form. So there's a form in the document that I've given you. Yeah, it's easy to do, but it's deep. Like, to get like we're starting on this process of learning, and that's what this whole competition is about, is this process of learning. So as you employ and practice these things, you'll get better at it, and you'll be able to employ them and think about them in other contexts and use them in other, like, business and social and school situations. So deep probing interviews. The follow me homes help you see what people do, and the interview helps you understand why people behave they do. And it's not always accessible to the surface. People, one of the phrases I've run into is like, is everybody lies, and everyone lies to themselves first. You know, it's like the example of eating healthy. Well, oh, of course I eat healthy until I get home and I'm actually eating pizza, burgers, and Diet Coke, you know. And it's not like it's a malicious thing, but it's something that it's a bias, it's a tendency we all have where you have to probe sometimes to really get to the core of what an issue or a problem is. One of the recommendations here is if you've got an interview to do, it's recommended to do it as close to the behavior that you wish to learn about. Okay. And your goal is not to change their behavior. The goal is to learn. Okay. So if it's an issue where someone, let's say, for example, let's take it into its accounting situation. So if they're trying to get deeper insight into how somebody, I don't know, manages their checkbook or manages their bank feed, they want to be interviewing someone about that while or in close proximity to when they've actually undertaken that activity. Okay. Asking someone to, you know, remember something 2 months later, you know, you get less accurate or honest, you know, reporting. So decide what behavior you want to learn about. Okay. Why are customers canceling subscriptions? There's an example. Find a source of people right at the moment or right after the moment of that behavior. Okay. So in this case, contact these people just after they've canceled the subscription, okay, or in the process of. And ask them sincere, probing questions about why. Okay. So the customer problem statement, before we attempt to solve a problem, the group has to agree and understand what the problem is. If people see things in a different way, then it's difficult for a group of people to come together and actually solve a problem. And I'll give you an example in terms of, but one of the simplest things is in terms of definitions of words. I'll ask, you know, I'll have a consideration about something, okay, a word, okay. So I might say, you know, that person's a fast runner. Now, my understanding of it's a simple statement, but my understanding of fast is different than your understanding of fast. Now, does fast mean that they're Usain Bolt? You know, about running, Usain Bolt is, you know, when I say they're fast, is that, do I mean like he's in the same league as Usain Bolt, or he's the fastest runner on the playground? Okay. My understanding of the word fast and your understanding might be different, even on common terms. So understanding the terminology you're using helps you get together and agree upon the problem that you're solving. In putting together the customer problem statement, go broad and write down as many potential problems as possible. Okay. Multiple opinions and multiple insights, and then share and discuss that list with your team. And then once everyone can see the broad list of potential problems, then you start to narrow things down. Okay. Then you start to quantify and come up with what are maybe more directly directly pinpointing the problems or the issues or the better descriptions of the issues. And you go from that broad perspective. I'll use the example of using Post-it notes. We often do this with Post-it notes. And I referenced this in the last class where I said go broad, and I had a picture on the screen with like 20 different Post-it notes. And then we went narrow. 20 went to 5 or 10, and then that came down to 1 or 2 or 3. So you start with a broad perspective, you get a wide view, and then you narrow down. Your question? Yeah.
And the problem, same view.
Well, everyone's not necessarily going to have the same view of the problem. Hopefully, everyone's going to have a different view of the problem. And then you share that. And then you work together, and through the research that you do and the follow me homes and the probing interviews, you narrow down the wide scope of problems to a narrow scope. Yeah, you probably, and it may be 1, it may be 2, but it's not going to be 50. Okay, you can't drink from a fire hose, as the saying says. You can drink from a garden hose. So you want to refine your issues. And when you're testing things and prototyping things, you're doing the same thing. You don't make 5 changes at once and then look at the results. Okay, well, the results are different. My prototype is different, but the customer likes it better, they use it better, it's more efficient. Which one of the 5 things was the cause of that? Well, I don't really know. I changed 5 things. Doing things sequentially, like one at a time, sometimes is a good way to isolate, okay, individual causes and effects. Sometimes you need to balance 2 causes and effects, but again, that takes some intuition, experimentation, and and you work on your problems. The saying I always say is like, how do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. If there's a large problem, you take it 1 bite at a time. So you're working towards this ideal state, okay? So in a perfect world, okay, you want an outcome of some sort, okay? Think of perfect outcomes, not perfect solutions. So you don't want to think about, you're not trying to identify, well, what's the perfect solution for this problem? You want to come up with the ideal state, okay? The best outcome from working through this problem. The biggest benefit is the most important improvement in your users or state or life. Okay, and then ultimately, which makes me feel. So, how do you want your customer to feel? I'll take again Intuit as an example. They have this relatively complicated process that most people are not specifically trained in. A lot of people, I'm just intuiting, I guess the name Intuit, a lot of people would be frustrated by that. And even working through it or having some experience with it might still not be comfortable or feel secure inside about how they're handling their financial information, say for the business or personally. So what's the ideal state? You probably want your customer to feel secure, okay, that their finances are well managed. Okay, there's a state of that you don't want that. You don't want that questioning, or you don't want them feeling, I'll use the word anxious, but like anxious gets used too much, over that process. Okay, you want them to feel secure. You want them to have the power of the understanding that they are competently handling their finances. Yeah. The perfect world. So what you probably don't want to do is say, I want to do this. Okay, you don't want to say the net effect of or the mechanical process that your app is going through. Okay, my goal is to make an app that picks better food for people. Okay, well, that's the solution. That's your solution. The goal state, the perfect state would be, I want people to maybe eat healthier or have the information that they need to eat healthier. Okay, I want them to feel, okay, like they're in better control of their nutrition and their health. Okay, one is the outcome of the technical process that you're developing, and the other is the emotional state of the end user. Okay, we want to work towards that outcome, not the solution. Let me put it this way. If you decide that the way that you're going to solve a customer's problem is to come up with an automatic algorithm that tracks food that they eat, okay, you end up working towards that goal. You lose sight of the outcome from the user. Now, you can successfully meet your goal 100%. While still missing the benefit to the user, okay, the outcome for the user. By focusing on the user's outcome, you leave yourself the ability to pivot and change your solution, okay? It's target fixation. There's another word they use, is target. Like you're so you're so focused on what you think you want to do that you lose sight. Your target is, and you're actually, what you're doing is you're servicing your own internal need, okay, to be successful. Now, I want to develop this app that does feature A, B, C, and D. Wonderful, okay? Those are not the outcome. Those are not the target. You've just become fixated on them. You think they are, okay? The actual target should be the customer's experience and the benefit to them and the outcome for them, okay? You can successfully develop on your 3, 4 features and hit those perfectly, but not actually work to solve the customer's problem, make their life better, give them a better outcome.
That is final or our idea is good when customers are satisfied.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
they are not satisfied, then they have to work on it, something else.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that's a customer-centric portion of this. So the ideal state describes a future state where an important customer problem has been solved, okay? Ideally, almost to the point that the outcome seems impossible. Like you really do want to have, ambitious outcomes, okay? Because it's in that mode that you're actually pushing the solution forward. You're developing probably a more not intuitive is not the word I want to use, but probably a more innovative, longer range solution by dreaming big and pushing forward. Okay. So are there any questions with that so far?
Okay.
What's that?
So the slide again, just
Which one?
that slide.
The last one?
Yeah, last one. We said
Okay. Okay, so what's your question? Oh, Khan Academy, yeah. So the example, this is just the example here. They say Khan Academy. You might have seen them. They're like an online school, and they describe their goal as providing completely free education to every single person on earth. Now that is ambitious. Yeah, yeah. Oh gosh, yes. Every business needs a why. Now that's another discussion on another topic, but the why are we doing this? And you can point to, I mean, there's some famous mission statements that companies have. Most mission statements, I don't find, quite honestly, are really indicative of forward thinking. They exist to fulfill, in many cases, I think, the need to have a mission statement. But do they necessarily drive the organization? Yeah, it's what is it? Spend less, enjoy more. So yeah, like and honestly, when I look at that, there's a simplicity to that. Okay, spend less. If that's your mission statement, everything that Walmart does is focused on spending less. Everything from the locations they have, the services they provide, the products they have, in particular the value chain and the supply chain. Like they beat their supply chain up to get the best value on products possible. Now, is it the most attractive store? No, but that's not their mission. Their mission is to save money. And they are doing it. They are doing it now. And you could argue, and the people do argue, perhaps with all sincerity and candor, are able to take a position where Walmart is not necessarily good for a small market economy. They sort of put local businesses, and that can be argued. I'm not saying they aren't, but their mission is to save money. The mission of a small local store might be to provide better service. Okay, are they able to, as a small local mom and pop, able to actually deliver on, on the supply chain and the the economies of scale to give the best prices? Maybe they can, maybe they can't,
It's a huge-
probably they can't. But if they can't, then their mission should be related to, you know, to have the best location, to be the most addressable, to have the friendliest service, okay? You know, to solve our customers' problems. Like I go into a local hardware store, I'll say like Home Hardware, and I expect to be able to ask the attendant, you know, the person there, you know, I've got a problem with my hose. What should I use to fix that problem with my hose? It's leaking, right? I don't expect to go to Walmart and have them understand how to fix my hose. I go to Home Hardware, go to Home Depot. Home Depot's great. They're a big store, but they do deliver on, you know, on that personal service. I'd say the same thing of like a company like Staples. They have a print center in Staples, and their service there is really good. Like within the realm of what they do, you know, they don't do, you know, large batch corporate printing for the most part, but if you want to go online and put together a brochure and get 150 copies, it's hard to beat the value that Staples provides. You know, they focus on that as their mission. Moving on, because I do have to get through this in the next half hour or so. So I'm going to take a few more moments just to look at the application ecosystem. And I thought the best way of doing that would be to look at some of the popular apps that are out there now. And if you're doing, if you've come up with an app idea, one of the things you need to do is survey the landscape. You need to understand who else is providing this service. Is there a hole in that market? Can you do something better? Now, one of the fallacies I think that people have in any kind of product development is the expectation that they need to be the only supplier in, or the only product in that space. You know, that would be, you know, that would be like saying that, you know, Tesla shouldn't get into making cars because General Motors and Ford and Toyota are already there. Okay, obviously, that's not the case. Tesla has established himself as a very successful car maker. But what did Tesla do that General Motors and Ford didn't? What did they do? Okay, electric vehicles. Okay, they they set as their mission to develop an electric vehicle when the rest of the world fundamentally knew that that was impossible. They set an ambitious goal. Along the way, as you mentioned, they overcame many technical hurdles and are leaders in development now in some very complicated and future-thinking technologies, battery development being one of them, autonomous cars being another. So they didn't say, Tesla didn't say, and there was a Tesla before there was Elon Musk, by the way. So Elon Musk came in after the start of the company. He was an investor, an early investor, but it wasn't originally his company. But they had the vision to say, you know, we want to be the electric car maker. We want to pioneer these technologies. We want to be seen as the leader in this kind of car. Okay, Ford sells millions of F-150s trucks. They don't make any small cars. They are the leader in a segment of. Okay, they are known for a certain product. And you could go through. I mean, there's a famous story about spaghetti sauce. Okay, Prego back in the 70s and 80s was second to Ragu in the sauce market, and they wanted to become number one. So they said they wanted to make a better product. How do we make a better spaghetti sauce than Ragu? They hired what was it, Workowitz, Harold something. And he was famous for sort of researching markets. And he came back and he said, well, you can't make a better spaghetti sauce than Ragu. There is no such thing as a better spaghetti sauce than Ragu. What he did say after that was that you can make better spaghetti sauces. See, at one point when you went to the spaghetti sauce aisle in the grocery store, there was Ragu and Prego, two bottles. Now you've got Prego 3 cheese, Prego extra meaty, Prego spicy, and you've got Ragu spicy and Ragu 3 cheese and Ragu extra meaty. So what they figured out is that the market wants this diversity. And therein you can find competition. You may find someone that's similar in the app that you want to develop, but you have to find your niche, your differentiation. You know, what's your unique selling proposition, okay? When you look for competition, you shouldn't be discouraged by finding competition. In fact, finding competition validates your idea. Oh, look, someone else thinks that this is a viable market too. If your argument, say if you're going to look for investment in developing an application or a product, if your argument to your investor is, I'm the only person doing this, I'm the first person doing this, okay? Well, the investor could come back with basically forming two opinions. Number one, no one else thinks this is a valuable market to be in. Number two, this person's a genius. Like you kind of have two options there. Like either you have discovered something no one on earth has found, which happens. Not a lot, but it happens. But it's actually more securing, it's actually more comforting to know that other people are reinforcing your idea. Your goal is to do something, and I don't want to use the word better, but I want to use the word different. So I'm just going to hit, I've gone online, I just screenshotted a couple of websites. I encourage you, all you have to do is type in, you know, top iPhone apps or top Android apps or best-selling apps. And you'll come up with a list that will look something like this. And in fact, the number one on all the lists is something called Temu, Shop Like a Billionaire. Have you ever heard of Temu? It's just out, like apparently just, I had never heard of it before, but it's basically a shopping site. I don't know if it's more like, you know, Walmart or Alibaba or somewhere in the middle. Okay, but yeah, I don't know, but it is a number one download for Android and iPhone. Yeah, well, not too much. You're using it so you remember it. It's successful, right? The next one is Monopoly Go, which is, I guess, apparently just been released as well. Shein, shopping again, WhatsApp, TikTok, Scene, and we get down to a list of, you know, what you would expect, you know, maybe to see as far as top apps. It does break down, okay? So the top iPhone apps. So there's downloaded, free downloaded, paid downloaded, and top grossing. So Temu is free, downloaded, it's free. But if you want Minecraft, you have to pay, sort of. Okay, I think you can download Minecraft, but you get in-app purchases, okay? You know, number two, Classic Sudoku, a game. Number three, topical, BC Wildfire Services. Okay, so why is BC Wildfire Service popping up in top downloads? Alberta is facing massive wildfires, and if you've seen a picture of downtown Calgary as of yesterday, it's orange. The smoke is the wildfire smoke. Okay. Yeah, what happens is, I don't know which way the winds blow, but Alberta and British Columbia are next to each other. So I'm going to guess that there's not an Alberta wildfire app. Guessing, because it's not in the top downloads. But for some reason, the BC app is. What's that? Yeah, there are all kinds of websites and services. Yeah, but this would point to me like, well, maybe there's a space for that. Now you might have to say, well, how do I monetize it? How do I make it worth my while to develop? But there might be a way to do that. And of course, you get your paid downloads, you get games, and then top grossing. See, there's downloaded, and then there's making money. So top grossing, YouTube makes a lot of money. Tinder makes a lot of money. TikTok and Disney make a lot of money. Yeah. Because it's the third most popular download. Because Alberta's on fire. You said it. Yeah. If your neighbor's house burns down, what's the first thing you do? You check your fire insurance. Like, you know, so the proximity of them being close to Alberta is causing that population, okay, to in mass do something. Okay. In this case, it's downloading a wildfire service app. Okay. Yeah. 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 On the Android side, you find some similarities, some differences. You know, Temu's still free download, Minecraft is still paid download, Monopoly's there, that was there before. Disney and TikTok have changed orders, but similarly, you've got some similar apps in each environment. Now, if you look at this, this is one of the websites, and I might pop over here for a second, but this Sensor Tower gives you listings of top apps and downloads, and also specific information about it. So, for example, in the Minecraft space, because Minecraft, not Minecraft, what's it called? Yeah, Minecraft. Yeah, Minecraft space is in-app purchase, right? So they would tell you, well, what things are people buying in Minecraft? You know, they're paying $2.99 for, I don't know, a hat or something. So these in-app purchases become the way they monetize the process. So you can find information sites like that online. This one I found interesting, and I had to kind of go back and forth and see if it was in fact real. I think it is. So this is a list of Canada's best apps. Now, you got to understand the terminology and the wording. Look, when you hear something called best, it's a little difficult to just assume that what that is going to be is like what's best? Okay, what does best mean? What's a best app? Yeah. What I find interesting in this list is that they're almost all tourism apps. So you've got, you know, Whistler, you got Lost Lake, Crystal Lodge, Gibbons Life, and in there you've got a couple of business apps. Okay, so these would be top-rated apps. Okay, and it's interesting that in Canada, apparently, tourism apps are popular. Okay, might that be an opening? Might that be an opportunity to do a tourism app for somebody? Potentially, they're highly rated apparently. But then you have to ask, well, how am I going to fund that? Is a client going to pay for it directly? Are you going to sponsor? Are you going to get it paid for through advertising? Okay. Are you going to do a pay-per-click thing? Or are you going to sell things inside the app? Okay. Yeah, it depends. All kinds of different options there. We looked at this the other day, app prototyping, designing things out. So a lot of what we've been talking about today, all of what we've been talking about today, you're building into your app prototyping process. And I'm just going to touch on this a little bit, and I don't really want it to become a focus of anything. It's not the focus of the competition. There is what they like no code software for building applications. So you can actually build simple applications with like a drag and drop kind of environment. Okay, those services cost money. Okay, coding something yourself by hand is basically free because you're literally typing things in a glorified text editor, or a piece of free software that a developer would use in order to sort of manage their application building. Okay, part of the stack would include, you know, that software. But there are some apps some programs that can be used to do some simple drag and drop stuff, or even more advanced prototyping kind of stuff where you drag and drop and you make a button that actually works and it jumps to a next screen. So there are options out there if you wanted to sort of explore that. It is not part of this competition, but I just wanted to bring that up. If you do look at what apps are developed in, there's a couple of popular options. The two most popular are Kotlin and well, most popular is relative. The most popular language in this environment will probably be JavaScript. But if you look at pure app development, like really high-end app development, you're probably looking at something called Kotlin or Swift. Those are specifically designed for mobile app development. What's that? C, like in theory, yeah, you could use C++. It's not a top mobile app. C++ is pretty old. It's pretty old. So you might use Objective-C. Objective-C was a precursor to Swift. And Swift is like Objective-C, and Objective-C was like C++, and C++ was like C. So things have developed effectively. JavaScript is still a big part of everything, so so that's in there. And Java, I don't know if anyone's writing pure Java programs really as much anymore. Kotlin is newer, not necessarily high performance, but it's what Google is pushing for app development, and Swift is what Apple is pushing for app development. So yeah, yeah. So those that you might run across those, don't sweat it. They're just kind of, and the top languages you would find: Swift, Kotlin, TypeScript, C++, something called Rust or Objective-C, and a little graph there that says, you know, what's popular. There are other languages, like probably the most popular script or language is HTML, but you don't design applications in HTML. They're for designing web pages. And you know, Python is used more for like on the data and the data research side, not really an app development, you know. And there's other options there. Yeah, a lot of stuff, but more general, not specifically, and not that I think you can technically, but I don't know if anyone really would, if I could put it that way. And you've got other stuff like, you know, Ruby and Scala and PHP and, you know, those other things, but SQL is for databases, but yes, yeah, or versions of SQL like MySQL or. And that's my presentation. So with that, I think I'll just wrap up here quickly by going to the workbook, just to take another quick run through it in light of what we've talked about here. Now, is that sharing? I don't know if it is. Hold on, I'm going to stop that for a minute. Stop that for a minute. I'll do it this way. Share my screen. There we go. Okay. So this is the workbook. Hopefully you've all had a chance to look at that. This is, I've emailed it to everyone and it's on the site. So I'm going to make it a little smaller here to roll through. Again, the first part, pretty straightforward, okay? You get to this section with these questions. What's the problem your customer is experiencing? How does your app solve this problem? Excuse me? Sorry?
I cannot see the small letters.
I want to go through it quickly here. It's all online, so if it's big, I can't kind of jump around and refer to three of them. I'll make it one thing a little bigger. Okay, so these three, they sound similar. How does your app solve the problem? What is the benefit of your product or service? What does your customer want from this product or service? What does your customer need from this product or service? Want and need are two different things, okay? Well, they point towards the direction of the solution, okay? But they are two different elements, okay? You need to eat. You want to have ice cream. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You need to eat. You need to have a roof over your head or stay warm. You would like to have air conditioning. Well, there we go. The likelihood is, I mean, you're probably not developing an app that's going to provide a house for someone. Now, maybe you are. Maybe your app somehow you found a way to meet the need of a certain segment of people that are going homeless. That could be your app. Okay. What does someone need? Well, they need shelter. What does someone want? Well, they want to be comfortable and secure. They want to have that emotional. When you're on the street, you're anxious. Okay. You're in danger. Okay. You're uncomfortable. Okay. What would you like? Well, of course, you need to be housed, but you want to feel secure. You want to have accommodations that are respectful and give you dignity. You can live, yeah, literally, you can live without the want. you can't live without the, well, I guess you could argue people do live without some needs, but yeah, the needs are more primordial. But you know, if I was said, well, I need to solve the housing problem, and then I go and build a 14-room mansion with 5 bathrooms. Okay, are the wants and the needs, the requirements matched? Probably not. So you could underfulfill someone's wants and overfulfill them, and actually fail in both extremes. And what's the benefit? Okay, again, if we go through that problem statement, that customer problem statement, we get to that emotional level. Like, what do they really get from the solution? Okay, so these in particular are 3-4 questions that you consider together, and they're together like that because I do want you to really actually wholeheartedly consider a broad scope of solutions or issues with the problem. And then we have our customer problem statement that is, we talked about a little earlier there. So hopefully you've got a little more insight into how to solve that. Okay. You know, what's the end user? That process of defining people. Okay, maybe one end user is a young professional. Maybe one end user is a senior citizen whose spouse has passed away and they're living at home alone. Okay, maybe they are 2 different customers with 2 different needs and 2 different sets of wants. Maybe your solution solves both of them. It could, probably doesn't, but it could. But you have to describe them and understand them before you can decide or make these kind of judgments or go down the process of doing the research and the follow me homes and the probing questions. Are there any similar apps available? Again, look for something similar, compare and find out what you can do better. You know, what is different? And then ultimately, how do you make money? And I would think most things have a commercial side to them, because ultimately nothing can exist in a vacuum. Okay, your app needs to eat. It needs to have funding. Maybe that funding comes from a commercial application. Maybe the funding comes from, you know, a program or a government source or a private sponsor. You know, either way, you need to know how it's going to pay for itself, how it's going to live. Total addressable model, where do they live, and the mockups link. Total addressable market, total addressable market. So, you know, how many you're going to design an app that's going to solve the or address the homeless issue in Sydney. What's your total addressable market? I don't know what that is, but it's definitely not. Well, yeah, how many people? I don't know what the total addressable market for that kind of app in Sydney would be, but I will guarantee you it's not bigger than the population of Sydney. Right? So, you know, that's where you begin your research and understanding. You know, maybe you're designing an app that is for, I don't know, diabetes monitoring. Okay, well, how many people have diabetes in Canada? How many people have diabetes in North America? See, those are your total addressable markets. Okay. And with that, I will leave you. I've burnt up most of an hour. Are there any final questions online in particular?
What is this last page?
Just one sec. I'm going to address that with you privately in a minute, okay? Because I do want to wrap this up for everyone in under the hour. So, are there any questions online?
Yes, sir. Until what time can we submit the workbook on Tuesday?
It'll be midnight, and I'll send out I'll send out another email just to confirm that with everybody. But we'll have the submission for midnight on Tuesday.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
You're very welcome. Any other questions online? And I'll address the remaining questions here in class. Great, hearing none. I want to thank you for joining in, and I look forward to seeing all of your applications and your workbooks on Tuesday. Good luck if you're involved in any of the graduation ceremonies here this week. Enjoy them, and we'll see you hopefully all on Tuesday. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.